Hey everybody, so here is your walkthrough of the station imaging assignment. I'm going to go through just, again, sort of like my techniques, my workflow on how to do this. You're certainly, you might customize this based on your own preferences and needs, but I'm going to show you sort of my workflow and just how this has always worked out well for me. I'm going to try to show you specific things in Pro Tools that we've maybe not yet explored. And I'll be shouting out things like keyboard shortcuts and little tips and tricks along the way. So use this as a resource when you're going through the project. I'm looking at the assignment page on Canvas right now. And to get yourself started, obviously start up Pro Tools, and then you're going to need to download all the voiceover content. Because again, the whole point of this assignment is to do that sort of real world exercise in, well, we generated a well of voiceover content when we had access to the voiceover people. And now we're going to all be using that same content to create new, interesting, creative things from it. So if you click on the Imaging Project Voiceovers link, you're taken to a Google Drive page that has these listed from whatever session they were recorded from. Each one of these has several, more like 8 to 10 minutes worth of stuff. So any one of these would be fine for you to use, specifically the class that you're from, or if you want to explore some of the others, that's totally cool too. So I've already downloaded these things. I'm looking at my blank Pro Tools edit window, right? I always like starting from scratch for this. You know, there's a benefit to creating templates, but you would have to create and customize one specifically for what you're doing, as opposed to using a template that already exists in Pro Tools. They don't really naturally prepare you for the kind of stuff that I want you to be doing here. So the first thing to do is going to be to import all that voiceover content into here. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. File and import audio from somewhere, wherever that that content downloaded when you went to the Google Drive page. So from inside here, here's all my different things. Now I'm just going to choose one of these. All right, and make sure that if you need to, you convert it to be, if the source is a different sample rate and your session is in a differing sample rate, you have to do the conversion part of that. Make sure that you have something in this area right here. Then I can hit done. So sometimes it gives you the option here. Do you want to put this stuff on a new track or a clip list? A clip list is like an extra window here on the right-hand side that I've since like closed off. So it's just an option whether or not you want to import this thing directly into a new audio track, or if you want to just like store it somewhere else. In this case, it's going to be the only thing I have in here, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it in from the session start. So here's all that content.
Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio rocks.
Right, so going through all these different things. Now what you might do is just kind of sift through and find the pieces that maybe are not good or not what you're looking for, and get them out of there. That's one thing to do. I mean, I'll show you exactly what I mean. This track I'm going to rename as the voiceovers. Now, I'm not going to include this audio track in my project, but I am just going to sort of leave this one here as like my library of content that I can draw from, right? And then I'm going to start creating some additional audio tracks for the actual production of this, okay? So I'm going to do that now, even before I start sifting through this. So I'm going to kind of create my session based on the type of activity that I'm going to do. I'm creating this station imaging kind of stuff. So Shift Control in, or Shift Option in if you're on a Mac. And here what I'm going to do is create 2 mono audio tracks to start with. And then I'm going to hit this plus sign because I'm going to add additional things also. I'm going to add 3 stereo audio tracks. 2 voiceover ones is going to be because I'm going to sort of bounce back and forth between voiceover tracks. and 3 stereo audio tracks, because stereo audio is going to be all of your sound effects and music. So I want to have, several of these dedicated to different stereo audio content that's going to come in here. And then finally, a stereo master. And then I hit create. So all this stuff is going to be populated. Now, what I want to do is start making this look pretty and organized. And you can do that by, like, let's say this VO track that has all the different voiceovers and stuff. I can double click on the color, and then I can change the color of a selected audio track. So let's say that I want my voiceovers to be blue, and then notice it only changed the color over here. If I want to change everything, then I can hit this little button and then increase the saturation and brightness of those things, so it changes that for me. The other thing I would prefer it if this matched the same colors here. So let's go into and adjust some particular preferences. Here we go, preferences. And look at our display. I'm going to do a couple of things. I want my default clip color coding to match my track color. Watch what happens. Ah, that's nice. So it matches my track color now. Perfect. So the next thing to do is to organize myself. So renaming these tracks. Here's going to be, maybe I'm actually going to change this one to be like my archive of audio content, right? And then here is going to be drive voiceover. And here's going to be effects voiceover. And I'll show you why in a little bit. We'll have to start adding effects in here. So this is all going to come in handy for us eventually. Now, as I've done this, I'm going to take my voiceover tracks, which are both in mono, and I've selected both of them. You do that by clicking on the title of one and then holding the control or command button and selecting another. And then when I go back to double click on the color, I'll change both of those colors at the same time. All right, now I'm double clicking on the name of my first stereo audio track, and this is going to be Sound Effects 1, Sound Effects 2 here. And if you're smart, you'll hit the next button instead of OK, and then it'll take you to the next track without closing the dialog box. And this is going to be music. And personally, I just like to get rid of that number 1 on the master. Now I'm going to change the color of my sound effects tracks. And the color of my music track also. And make my master track a little bit of a brighter red. So there, not only is it like, well, I know it's silly, it's color coordinated and whatever, but it's visually, this can help you out, and it can, I don't know, you start to build preferences like this, and you have an easier time of kind of customizing your own experience here. So now what I want to do is some of the more common activities that I would do with voiceovers, meaning the audio processes that I would do. So I'm revealing my inserts column here, and I would hardly ever add an effect on my sound effects or my music track, because all those things are already going to be affected the way they need to be. But my dry voiceover, I can just go through and pick, well, the things that we would normally do, right, are add EQ and add some dynamics processing. So I'm going to go straight for presets. Solidify male vocals. Cool. Then I'm going to take the next open spot and add the compression. Vocal leveler is the one I usually go for. And pretty much straight away, I've raised the ratio to like 5:1 or so. And then lower the threshold a little bit, because I really want this to get crunchy and substantial and loud, right? Adding a little extra gain. Now, this is going to be revisited, right? But it's pretty quickly getting me to a good spot. Okay. Now, if I want to... Now, remember that these effects are going to apply to any audio that goes on this channel, right? Any audio at all. Now, I want to apply some different effects on this voiceover, something to make it more interesting. Remember when we did the phone EQ or whatever? So that can be a useful tool. So instead of going through that whole creation process again, if I click and if I like the settings that I've got here, like let's say that I know I'm going to use the same compression settings and stuff, I'll hold the Alt key or Option key and then click and drag this onto another spot. And now here I have a duplicate of that already on my effects voiceover. What I want to do now, though, is maybe do that voiceover or that telephone vocal, right? So let's find a piece of audio that we like.
Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio rocks. Lockdown. More like rockdown. 419-372-9325. Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
All right, let's do it. Let's go with that.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
Okay. So I'm going to break this, or even actually, so I want to keep all my archive content, right? So I'm just going to highlight the part that I want and Command C or Control C for copy. Put my cursor where I want this to really go, which is toward the beginning of this track, and then paste it. Right, there it is. And now it's going to be on this dry voiceover track that is going through a basic EQ and some compression, so it should sound different.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
See how much more substantial that sounds and everything? So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to start piecing together all the little bits that I think I want for this particular piece of imaging, right? Remember, it's going to be about 15 seconds or less, so I don't need too much else.
Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio rocks. Lockdown? More like rockdown. Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio rocks.
Let's do Falcon Radio rocks.
Falcon Radio rocks.
All right, so I'm highlighting it. Control C for copy. Put the cursor where I want it to go, and Control V for paste. And then a lot of times I'm just muting the archive track so I don't hear it all the time.
Falcon Radio rocks.
That's cool. Now, I showed you how I added the telephone vocal effect on this track. So it's going to apply to any audio that goes on this track. So if I want to change this particular voiceover to have that effect, I can just move it down on this track.
To deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
Falcon Radio rocks.
See how that's applied there? Now, what I want to do is maybe come up with a couple of more interesting things, right? Let's see. Maybe I want to add some more creative sounds to this voice. Let's really get weird with it. Let's add some flange and see what this is going to sound like.
Falcon Radio rocks.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to loop the playback so I can keep listening to this.
Falcon Radio rocks. Falcon Radio rocks. Falcon Radio rocks.
Okay. Now what happens if I add a copy of this, right? So I'm taking this version and maybe making a duplicate of it and putting it on the dry voiceover. So watch. I'm just going to hold the Option or Alt button and click and drag a copy of itself. Now I have both playing at the same time.
Falcon Radio rocks.
So it sounds even more substantial, and I've got sort of the one with the extra effects on it, and then one without, so I can lower the volume of one.
Falcon Radio rocks. Falcon Radio rocks.
That's pretty awesome to be able to do that. I'm going to undo that stuff that I've just done, however, and what I'm going to do now is maybe find one more piece of voiceover And then I'll really start putting all this together. I just wanted to show you all the different things that you can do to stack effects and how it can be useful to apply them in a non-destructive way here. So let's find one more unique thing here. We've got the thing about the robot. We've got Falcon Radio Rocks.
Arr, Falcon Radio.
All right, maybe that's it, I think.
Falcon Radio. Arr, Falcon Radio.
All right. So copy. Go back to my area that I'm working on and paste this.
Radio.
Waiting on your
Falcon
robot
Radio
to
Rock.
deliver.
Mute this.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Arr, Falcon Radio.
All right, so let's say that I want the pirate to start this thing off. So I'm going to have the pirate start it off. It'll be like sound effect, pirate, something else, Falcon Radio, or waiting on your robot, and then Falcon Radio rocks at the very end. So this is the order that things are going to happen. What I need to do is start incorporating all of these other sound effects, and then I'm going to go through and organize and balance things. So let's go through and see if we can, on my hard drive, I've got lots of different audio content here, right? So we're going to go through and find some things that'll work for us. Now we can listen to this stuff. So maybe something like that. Something like that. You're going to be looking again for things like production elements, work pieces. That's what they'll be called. So let's see if I can drag and drop. Nope. So I'm going to import the long way. And what you would do probably is go through a session where you're just like looking for content online, and then you're going to sort of compile it all. And then you're going to be able to bring in the stuff that you need. You'll have like a short list of things that you need. So what do I need here? I need some work pieces, some production elements to signal that we're going from song to something else and then back into music. And then I'm going to need a little bit of like background music for this. So here's what I was looking at, the production elements. Let's go down. And I think you can play these. Let's play it. Not quite what I wanted. Now that sounds pretty cool. So let's take that and convert it. Let's also take a rewind. And a pulsar. So we're pretending like I went online and I found these things that are probably going to be useful for me. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and find some music that might work for me too. Now we want kind of rockish music, right? Let's go TV rock. See what it sounds like. I think I need more like background kind of stuff. Yeah, that's the one. All right, so I'm going to convert it, and that's going to be able to be in the background for whatever moment I need it. The very final thing is like those funny little pieces of audio that maybe would be just fun to have, right? So let's find all this stuff. Apologies for all the navigating around here. This is why the remembering where you store stuff is so important. But I've got this like massive collection of little movie clips and things like that. So let's just find something that might work. Let's do something from there. Something from Step Brothers would be good.
He's a very gifted singer.
I'm really, really good. I've been called the songbird of my generation by people who've heard me. That good.
That's funny that you say that, because I can sing too. In fact, I'll sing right now.
I remember when I had my first beer.
That's so funny. The last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Ooh, the dinosaur one
It's
is going to
gonna
be
be different.
good. That's what we need.
This
All right, so this one's going in. We're going to convert it. And all this stuff is going into my audio files folder that Pro Tools created. And this time, I'm going clip list. And I'll show you why. When I choose clip list, I get this little area over here that says clips. And now here's everything that I've worked on or imported into here, including subsequent edits that I've made, right? So here's my intro sound effect. I'm going to bring that into my sound effects track. And now I'm going to start piecing this together. Notice that there's two of these. So I'm going to break one and maybe save this for the end. So let's take a listen to what this sounds like.
Arr!
All right, and I'm really just going to start arranging things. Fully, like, getting just like their placement in here, where I want them to be. And then I'm going to wind up, tweaking everything at the end. But, like, I'm going to make some adjustments. Now, remember that, like, all these, since we're going to have more than one thing living on a particular audio track, I'm really going to start messing with, like, clip gain as a method of changing the volume of things.
Arr! Falcon Radio.
Okay, pretty cool. But we need the music to come in there pretty quick. All right, so let's find the music enforcer. Throw that on my music track. Lower the clip volume of that.
Arr! Falcon Radio.
All right, so what might happen, I think, here is, first of all, this is still a little bit too loud. And then it might actually fade out pretty quick.
Arr! Falcon Radio.
Okay, not bad to get us started. Let's see what this sounds like next to it.
Radio. Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
Let's trim it up just a little bit and see what happens. Maybe we'll put it down here on my effects track and see what it sounds like.
Arr! Falcon Radio. Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks?
No, I'm thinking that maybe this should actually go first.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
All right, so let's put this, break it, and put this on the effects track.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
All right, and then I need my silly joke, right? My Step Brothers joke. And that's where having two sound effects tracks is going to come in handy, because I'm going to do what's known as like checkerboarding and put this on that one. So it's kind of like goes from one track to the next and back and forth. But we have to find the exact moment that I wanted, and I know it was a little further on here.
Falcon.
So let's solo this sound effects track and find it.
That's funny that you say that, because I can sing too. In fact, I'll sing right now.
I remember when I had my first beer.
That's so funny. The last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
All right, so there we go. That's the part I need. Getting rid of the rest. Let's hear how the flow goes.
Your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
That's so funny. The last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Arr! Falcon Radio.
All right, I think we might even just use that. I think I'm going to get rid of this particular voiceover. That's pretty good.
Arr, Falcon Radio.
Falcon Radio.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just maybe it's too much trying to be funny. I'm gonna go with the female voiceover there too, just so I can do some other things too. So we want to line this stuff up just right. Sometimes a small overlap can be useful though.
Fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Notice there was like a small.
Falcon.
I want to just make sure I've got this little fade, just tiny little fades at the beginning and end, so it doesn't sound unusual.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Okay, but there's also something important that happens here. Let's say I want to make that a little bit more interesting still. All right, maybe I want to create a stutter effect. So let's say Falcon Radio rocks.
Falcon Radio rocks.
So I'm going to zoom in as close as I can to where the Falcon begins.
Falcon Radio.
Create that fade. And then I'm going to go where rocks is. Where's rocks?
Rocks.
Zooming in there. What I want to do, the idea is going to be to create a little stutter effect with rocks.
Rocks.
Okay, so I'm going to break that right there. And I'm going to make a bunch of little copies of itself. All right, and I do that by holding the Option key or the Alt key and then clicking and dragging. And I can make little duplicates. And this is a totally a guess and check type of activity. Let's see what it sounds like.
Radio rocks.
Pretty cool, but I think they might be a little too close together in order to really hear what I wanted. So I'm going to create that space a little bit larger.
Radio rocks.
That's cool. And a pretty easy effect to accomplish.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Nice. And then we could add this other sound effect at the end.
Radio rocks.
Let's include everything.
That I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rocks.
All right, so that one has like double the amount of stuff that I want.
Dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rocks.
So I think this actually has to come in earlier. It really does, in order for this to work. I'm going to close my clip list because I don't need that stuff anymore.
Falcon Radio rocks. Falcon Radio rocks.
Okay, so then when this happens, the music has to go away. So I'm going to choose a spot to stop the music and really just like fade it out when that other thing begins.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Might even start this a little sooner. Let's see. Just lower the volume so it's not in the way of rocks.
Falcon Radio rocks.
That's pretty awesome. Let's listen to the whole thing.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
That's so funny. Last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rocks.
Nice. So I go from one thing to another. Now, it's just inserted in between the songs. The final thing that I would do here is go through and either add the Maxim or add a compressor. So if you don't have Maxim on your system, because of Pro Tools First or whatever, you can just, a compressor and a limiter are essentially the same thing, but with the ratio turned all the way up. And then you just decide where the threshold needs to be, and then you want to make sure that you're not clipping, right? So let's see what that does. That really brings it out, right? So let's take down our makeup gain.
Waiting on...
I'm looking at my input volume and my output volume, but see, I'm too distorted here. So I need to bring down the makeup gain and then make my adjustments.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks? At least you got Falcon Radio.
That's so funny. Last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rocks.
So you hear the difference in loudness?
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks?
Here's it without it.
Waiting on your robot to deliver your Starbucks?
Just adds a little bit of more substantial loudness to it or whatever. So that's a good place to be. Now I could call this finished, but I got to show you a couple other things. So I've got all these awesome, like this custom template set up with these cool effects that are unique to me and maybe the theme of the type of content that I'm working with. Don't go through the trouble of having to create all these audio tracks all over again. What you want to do is make use of the same the same structure, and improve your efficiency. So what I'm going to do is at the beginning of this, I put my cursor at the beginning and I'm going to add a marker that says like number 1, because I have to do 5 of these, right? So there's my marker that says, hey, that's where number 1 starts. And then over here, I make another marker and then call this 2. And what I can do is make use of the same effects that are applied to these audio tracks and just start working on another very similar thing. Just start it right here and do 5 of these in a row. And then when it comes time, you make a selection like this and then bounce your mix 5 different times, right? And this is really cool because you can keep all the settings exactly the same, and they'll each one of your little pieces your imaging pieces will have a similar sound and a vibe. You might make use of this flanger voice a couple of different times. That's pretty awesome to have at your fingertips like that. So you just go back to your archive, your well of content, and you create another new idea right over here. Okay, so what are some other things that I can do really quick before we wrap this up? So, in this particular piece, I did this stutter effect, which is a good one.
Falcon Radio rocks.
That's pretty cool. But let's remove that and change it to something different. So I'm removing all those things and just expanding this again to bring it back to what it used to be. So here it is.
Falcon Radio rocks.
That's its original.
Falcon Radio rocks. Falcon.
Okay. So I did the stutter effect on the R, and that's a good one to do. I could also do something like add a delay on here at the end to make rocks repeat itself a bunch of times. Not like the little repeats that made it sound like a stutter, but to actually let it repeat many times. So that would be an audio suite, like a destructive process that we would do with a delay. I'm going to use a different looking delay here. So let's see what we've got. What happens? Select rocks.
Rock.
Look at that. I didn't even have to do anything, and that's a pretty awesome setting. So let's render that. Physically change the audio, and notice that I gave, like, my selection was much longer than the word rocks. It's because you have to select how far you want that delay to carry out, right? So let's hear it.
Falcon Radio rock. Falcon Radio rock.
Not bad, but maybe I needed to do that a little bit longer actually. So let's bring the delay back. And make a longer selection.
Rocks. Rock.
Cool.
Falcon Radio rock.
All right, let's add that into the rest.
Last time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rock.
Now, in this type of case, I might want to actually put this sound effect over like the dinosaur thing, right? And then have the Falcon Radio rocks show off afterwards.
Fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio rock.
And then the next song plays as this is echoing out over it, right? So a different method to sort of create something interesting and create some variety between all your songs. All right, Let's bring this back one more time. Just because I really want you to explore and get creative with all this stuff. So let's see.
So hard I fell off my dinosaur.
Falcon Radio Rock.
Let's focus on this. I want to show you one more special little tool here in the audio suite. So again, destructive processing. Of course, the one that I'm looking for, here it is, under pitch shift, verify. This thing can be really cool. This is like what's known as a tape stop effect. If you can think of an old reel-to-reel, like actual physical tape machine, if you like lightly put your hand on it, it'll slow down and the pitch will change as it slows. So that's what we're going to accomplish here. Let's see if I can do this appropriately. So just with the rocks, see what happens.
Rock. 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 Rock.
So let's try it a little bit sooner. Maybe I'll do the whole thing.
Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio. Falcon Radio.
All right, so it's not perfect. Let's see if we can get it.
Radio. Radio.
It's like you want to get the rocks but have it slow down right as that's happening, right?
Radio. Radio. Radio.
That can also be a useful tool when you're censoring something.
Rock. Rock. Rock.
So obviously that'll take some guessing and checking also, but can be a really creative tool if used appropriately, and tastefully is always the ticket. So let's say that I've got my finished product here. I'm going to go ahead and bounce to disk, bounce mix, make sure that this is an interleaved 16-bit 48 kilohertz, right? And then you bounce this, and then you would have another one over here, and you would make that selection, and then you would do the same process, bounce, and you would call it, your last name, imaging number 2, and you're going to turn in 5 of those. What's really nice about this is you won't have to worry about the exact timing of it. So if you can do something cool in 15 seconds or less, that's what we're looking for. Thanks for bearing with me on this one, but I think that aside from all the searching for all the files and stuff, that this is pretty useful as a resource for you when you're going through the project. Good luck, and don't hesitate to contact me if you need some additional help, okay? See you next time.